All right, so I wanted to tell a little bit of a creepy story. So I grew up in Granbury, Texas, and it was a lake town. And he had like maybe 5,000 people when I was growing up. But in the summer, when it would get really hot in North Texas, you would get a lot more people in town from like Fort Worth and Dallas who'd come down to fish or boat or ski or whatever. And this really came to a head on July 4th every year when I heard anywhere from 50 to 100,000 people would come into town, and I believe it because I mean you would be driving down the highway and there would be people just on the side of the road next to Walmart in lawn chairs because it was where you could see the fireworks from, and getting prime real estate for the fireworks show was difficult to come by. So the way my family would handle it is we would go into town early in the morning for the parade and sit on lawn chairs. You got me out there with my little American flag and sparklers or whatever. But after the parade, we would turn around and hightail it back home. So by early afternoon, we were back home, and we lived on a hill outside of town. So we could actually see all of Granbury and the lake from where we were. So I would watch the fireworks from our house, which from where we were, several miles away, it was just like, and then you would wait like 7 seconds, and then you would hear boom, boom, and that's it. It was so lame. But as an adult, I understand why my parents didn't want to mess with it because there were so many people in town that it would take you like an hour just to drive a couple of miles across town. And it was just like crazy drunk drivers and just police stops, and it was like a big hassle. So I get it. But of course, part of me always wanted to go in town and be part of the action. So when I was 14, I finally got a chance to be part of the action and be in town because we had some family who were coming in town from like some other town like Crowley. And I don't even remember who these people were, but somehow we were related to them. And they already recognized that the Ericksons was just not the place to be for the fireworks show because we were way out in the woods. And so they got a room at this little motel called the Brazos Motel. And the Brazos Motel was this lovable little dump. It was somehow run down, but not particularly trashy. It was such good real estate. It was right by the old iron bridge, right on the lake. You could walk to the water. There was a boat dock. But the motel itself looked like it was a mess. You know, it was like these little square kind of concrete buildings. There was like a bathroom in there, and that's about it. It was like the very definition of no frills. But when you drive by there, people always look like they're having a good time. They're outside. They're, grilling. They're having a beer or whatever. So, it was fine. And they got a room there, and so I was excited that we are going to get to stay there. So we get in the truck, and my dad's kind of grumbling that we have to sit in traffic and all this stuff, and it did take forever to get there. But once we got to the Brazos Motel and got out, that was about the best time a 14-year-old boy could possibly have. We had black cats and M80s and bottle rockets and those little white rockets, and we were just, as my parents were busy with the other parents over there grilling and stuff, we were like firing the little rockets out towards boats and like just doing all kinds of hood rat stuff. And it was so fun. And we had this great boat dock where you could just jump into the water, and the water was deep enough that you weren't like confined to only doing like cannonballs and stuff like that. You could really dive in the water because it was pretty deep. And so I had about the best time I had ever had in my life. And so I was very excited a year later when the same people came into town, staying at the same motel, and we got to do it again. Now this time I was a little bit older. I know that we didn't have the fireworks budget we did the first year, and we ran out, and we spent a lot more time swimming. And probably not the safest thing with all the boats out there, but one of the things we were doing is we would swim out as far as we could and then see if we could touch the bottom. And eventually we would get out where we couldn't touch the bottom anymore. But sometimes I would be out and I'd be like, oh, it's about 15 feet, and I'm doing the swim upside down thing to make myself go under, and I would get to the bottom, and it was really fun. So that happened. It was a good memory. And one of those memories I probably would have forgot about. But things happened later that brought this back to the forefront. So fast forward probably 25 years. Since then, I had moved to the East Coast, and I was actually working in Midtown Manhattan. I had a desk job at Madison Square Garden, and I was sitting at my desk, and I had been hearing a lot from like friends who still lived in Granbury that there was this just unheard of drought, and the lake was drying up, and it was so bad that I had friends that had lakefront property where they normally had like a boat dock, and they had a boat sitting there, and they would post pictures of like this boat dock that's just sitting there, and all you see is dirt and grass, and it was like getting reclaimed by vegetation. Like it had been dry so long that grass had all grown up, and you had little trees starting to pop up, and you would barely believe that a lake had ever been there. And this lake had gotten down to where it was just a little pond in the middle of where it used to be. And this was happening all over the state. It was particularly bad in Granbury because it was part of the Brazos River. You had multiple dams along the route. So you had this governing body that would decide like, hey, you know, this lake needs more water, so we're going to let some water out of here. And it just seemed like Granbury was getting the short end of the stick, because that lake went down more than you would ever imagine that it would ever go down. And so I was fascinated by that, and I was fascinated by seeing a lot of these stories where I know way down in central Texas at Lake Buchanan, there was an entire town that had been like uncovered that had been submerged underwater ever since they dammed up the water, like, I don't know, decades and decades earlier. And that town was now above ground again, or above water, and you could go look at these ruins. And so I got really interested in that stuff. So I'm sitting at my desk, and I am on CNN, and it says, there's a headline that says, truck found at bottom of lake solves decades old cold case. And it mentioned Texas in there. I was like, oh, that's good. I wonder where it was. So I click on it, and you know, every story at the beginning will have the name of the town with a dash, and it said Granbury. And I'm like, whoa, this is about Granbury. Granbury's on the front page of CNN. So that's happened a few times in my life. It's always bad news. If Granbury is in the headlines, it's not because, you know, somebody solved the human genetic genome, or, you know, some great thing. It's always a murder. It's always some horrible thing, a boat crash, something terrible. So I start to read it, and it said that the water had continued to drop and continued to drop, and then they found this like old Chevy Silverado truck that had been there since 1979. And the truck was, of course, trashed from being underwater all those years. But when the city employees saw it, and they were like, hey, let's drag this thing out. So they pulled the truck out. First thing they noticed, oh wow, there's a dead body in it. So they look at it, and right next to the dead body is a purse, and there's an ID, and it's like this woman named Helen Holiday. And immediately, as soon as they call that in at the cops, they are like, oh my God, there's a woman that's been missing since 1979 named Helen Holiday. That's her. So yeah, they figure this out. So that solves that cold case. Now, what was kind of really bummed me out about this, because it was really sad to read about it, because what had happened was this woman, and I'm just reading stuff that I saw online. I know these people probably have living relatives. I don't want to say anything wrong, but my understanding from reading everything that I saw online was there was like an abusive relationship between Helen and her husband, and they had gotten some big fight, and everybody said the last thing they saw was her driving towards Granbury. And he said, I never saw her again. I don't know where she is. So he was never charged. And finding this body didn't solve it, because what ended up happening is there's no damage. It wasn't like she'd been shot in the head or something. They don't know, did she drive the truck in herself? Did he, you know, strangle her to death and then shove the truck into the water? We'll never know. And then on top of that, so much time had passed since she disappeared that now he passed away. So if he was responsible for it, he got away with it. So this was a real bummer. But then what really kicked in, I'm watching this, they showed where they pulled it out of, and it was the Brazos Motel. And they pulled it out right where we were swimming, right when we were going down and touching the bottom of the water. The whole time we were doing all that, there was a dead body with all kinds of secrets, probably just screaming out from the afterlife, trying to get our attention, that we didn't know was there. And I mean, from where they pulled it up, it looked like we could have like jumped a certain direction and we would have been right next to it. And so that happened. So in some ways it creeped me out. And then, other ways, just that story just kind of made me sad. This woman, dies that way. They think the husband did it. They can't prove it. They had even searched the lake back in '96 and never found anything. And I think they had even searched that area, but they think maybe the truck had been like too, submerged under mud or whatever, or too far out. It's too deep. But yeah, that happened. And it's a real bummer. But I don't know, kind of creeps me out about swimming in the lake. You never know what's at the bottom.